Hi, my name is Alessandro Cangelosi and that's a video tutorial coming from cgcookie.com for Max Cookie. Today we talk about the fabric rendering with VRay. So we'll make some examples to see how we can create some believable material using 3ds Max 2014 and VRay. As you see, I just prepared a scene, a really simple scene, using the garment maker on a rectangle, and then I simulated a cloth, a simple cloth, just to have the basic scene. And obviously we have no animation, we have just the editable mesh, and I have a turbo smooth just to have more details over the clothes. Then I have the illumination made using let's deactivate the grade, and I have a VRay light, and then using it as dome, and to illuminate we have a multiplier of 15. It is not visible in rendering, and it is working on the diffuse, the specular, and the reflection. We have a little bit higher subdivision to have less noise during rendering. And then I'm using a VRay map as full spherical dome to make the illumination. In the material editor, I have this map. It is a map coming with 3ds Max, but you can find it inside the archive, and that's an HDR map, a spherical map. And then we'll use some texture given by CG Texture to us to make the tutorial, and we'll try to simulate some surface. So if we check the rendering, it is not so complex. We have a really basic material for the ground, and we can go there and see the rendering, and you see it's really simple. We have this HDR map illuminating this cloth. Actually, we have no material, we have just a color for the cloth. Let's say that we have the show safe frame, so we can see more near our cloth. Then we'll start with something really simple. So I like to simulate something, a material similar to let's say maybe a velvet or a silky material, and we can achieve it in a really simple way. So let's say velvet will be this shader will be just a way to simulate some kind of fabric like the velvet. So you have just to understand how to play with it to obtain our final render. Let's assign the material, and then we go for a VRay material. So we like to simulate the way we have the reflection and the coloring over a velvet. And you know that a velvet has some kind of lighting over the edges. In this example, if we like to create, for example, a blue cloth, let's go to render it. Let's go with a really low value just to speed up the rendering. And let's render. So you see, in this way we have just a blue meshes. So let's select just an area, and the trick is to use a fall-off map over the diffuse. So if we copy let's say this color with the right mouse button, and we'll put it there, then we copy the same, and this one will be more clear. If we go to render, we'll obtain obviously a lighting shading for this material, because we are using this different color. Obviously now it is taking care about the illumination, and the illumination is a little bit reddish, and it is due to the map. So if we like to have a more neutral illumination, we can use the color map. And that's the map. You see that is basically red, and we go to remove some saturation. So in this way you see that we have a more neutral illumination. Okay, the way is right, but what we are trying to achieve is to have this kind of effects with a more darker blue for the part that is not illuminated. Let's go for a blue color. Okay, and then we go for a freshnel. So if we go to render, we'll have just over the edges, you see this kind of brighter blue. And to obtain a better result, we can first of all have a more clear blue there, and then we can try to change the way this map works. So for example, if we use the right mouse button there and we change this one, you see that we have a little bit more lighting over the edges, so we have more clear material, and that's nice, a nice addition to have the right coloring. Okay, so you see that in this way we have this kind of coloring for an higher size of our mesh, and we can obviously use a higher value to obtain a better look. Let's get to change just a little bit this material, this color. And something that can be useful is to have a bump map, because actually we have nothing. But you see that this material actually have no reflection. So if we go to have a reflection, a reflectivity, and let's save the scene, and we go to render, you see that now it is really high, but obviously we can have a lower reflection and reflectivity. First of all, we need the freshener reflection, because we have to simulate the freshener effects, and you see that it's still too high. So something that can be done is to use the reflection glossiness to simulate the glossiness over and the blurring over the reflection. Let's try with 0.65. Okay, you see that now it is going better than before, and we have a nice reflectivity over the clothing. Maybe it is nice to have all the sides there. And something that can be done is also to use a little bit, because now we have also the reflectivity over the cloth. And then something that can be done is to change the anisotropy of the material, going a little bit in this way, using a positive value for the anisotropy to simulate the clothing. You see that now we have a more velvety effects. If you like to have more reflectivity, you can do it, and something that can be done is to remove still a little bit of reddish over the image, so we can have a more neutral rendering, just a really fast test. And you see that the rendering now it is taking and using some neutral color, so we can go in this way. So I was saying that if you like to have a little bit more reflectivity, it's not a problem. You have just to manipulate this parameter, let's say 100, and in this way you can see how much reflectivity we have over this material. And in this way you are going to simulate something more like velvet or more like the silk. So you know that material are a little bit different, but they use the same way to simulate its lighting. So you can decide to have more or less reflectivity. And something that can be done is also to use a different value for the reflection glossiness to have a more blurred or less blurred reflection. Okay, so when you have something like that, it is nice to have also a bump. So we go inside the bump, we choose for bitmap, and we can go inside our folder to let's go in the Dropbox. Okay, and there we can have some maps. So let's go in the right one, and we can have, for example, let's see, this one. It is just a clothes texture. So let's select nothing. So let's go to see in real time. You see it is nice. Let's go with a less blur. So it's 0.25, but it is too big depending on the scale of our scene. So let's go for something more little. Let's go for 4 and 4. And back to the render to see if it is enough or we need to have a higher value for the bump. Okay, it is starting to be visible, but it is not so much visible. So we can do two things. First one is to go near the cloth, and then we can launch a render. And if you launch the render in this way, you can obtain, I just made it. So let's go inside VRay and open it, and you see that we are starting to see the bump. So what we can do there is to go inside the material, and you see I just made some changes. First of all, we have a higher value. Now we have 50 for the bumping, and then I created a color correction map inside the reflection, and inside I used the same bump map, but let's go there inside. You see that we have no saturation, so we have just a black and white, and we can use 001. In this way we are creating some differences inside the reflectivity, and we are near to have a nice looking velvet or silk material, depending on the parameter you change and the value you are setting. So let's say that this one is okay, so we can play with it to obtain a better look. Let's go to center the pivot, and using the shift key we can copy this mesh there. And this one is the cloth velvet silk. Okay, now we can play with another fabric material. Let's think about the leather. So we can create a new leather material, and we need to use again a VRay material. Okay, so the first thing we need is a texture, a leather texture. So we use again another texture given by CG texture. So we use a bitmap, and you see that there we have a leather texture. So let's say okay, it is a really high res. Let's wait for opening, and we can check the texture. It is a tile-label texture, and you see that the quality is really nice. So let's say that the blurring is 0, and you see we have it there. Let's try to have a better tiling, and in this case if we go to render, we can see just essentially a material with this map as color, but we like obviously to obtain something more. So first thing I like to do is to have a more clear coloring there. And to make something like that, we can do a really simple thing. We can go inside the map. So let's stop the render. And we can go there, and we can use the color correction key pull map. Okay. And let's see just the map, and let's go in advanced, and let's play just with the gamma. So I go to have a lightened version of this map. Let's render a really little part of the rendering just to see if the coloring is getting better, and you see that it's clear, more clear than before. So actually we can, I think, go maybe with just a little bit more tiling. Let's try with 4 and 4, and then we can go higher when we have a bigger rendering, so we see the texture over the rendering there. Okay, so now you see we have nothing special. It is just a colored texture and nothing else. Let's save. So we have to start simulating the reflectivity and the other properties of a leather. So the first thing we need is the reflection. We need to have reflection, and usually the leather can be highly reflective. So let's go for a night color for reflection, let's go to have the freshen reflection, and you see that we have the IRR that is controlling with 1.6 the reflectivity. And this way you see that we have something similar to a metal, because we have a really high reflectivity, but we have also no glossiness, so it is really high reflective. Let's stop the rendering and let's start having a little bit of glossiness. So we are starting to have blurred reflection. You see that it's starting to be better than before, because you see that we have just reflectivity done in this way, and it is better. We can have also higher reflectivity in some cases, but it depends on the leader we are simulating. So we can try to have later a lower reflection, but we'll control the reflectivity using the map really in a few. So we should have a different highlight glossiness. Let's try with, for example, 0.6 can be a nice start to have something more interesting. And then I think we have to start playing with the maps to control the reflectivity. So I think we can use just this map. We can put it there, let's say as a copy, and then you see I will use a no saturation. Let's see the map, and it is not so clear, so we'll have not so high reflectivity, and we can make a test to see how much to reflect. Okay, you see that now it is lower than before. So we can do something more complex. Instead of using the color correction, we can make a composite map. So we go for a composite, we say to use this map as submap, and we use another one. This one will be an RGB tint, so this one will control just with one color the amount of reflectivity we have. So we can go to have, let's say, something like that. Obviously now we are using just this one, so we can test how much reflectivity we have. You see that it is not so much, so we can go higher, and to go higher we have just to go there and ask for a brighter color, let's say something like that. Okay, in this way we'll have a brighter reflectivity. So you see our leather material is more reflective than before, and that's really nice. So let's wait. And something that can be done is also to have a lower value of visibility about the first texture we are using. So let's go in the diffuse, and we can go there, and let's say that we have a composite also there. Keep all map, another map. This one will be again an RGB tint, and we use a black color. So in this way you will be able also to create black leader. So in fact, if we go to render, you see that we have just black coloring for this leader. Okay, let's say that we'll use this one just to change the color. So we'll say okay, normal, and let's say to use this one just to have a darker color and make less visible the bump and the detail, the detail over the texture. So there we go to change a little bit to 0.5 to have a lower level, just to give the coloring to the material. So we go to render, and we'll have just, you see, a brown, a dark brown coloring for our leader with a reflectivity. So we have a better understanding of what we are doing over the material. Perfect. So let's go back there, and we have this map. Okay, so we are controlling the reflectivity just with one color. Now we can invert the map, we give us a little bit more coloring, and we say, okay, let's use maybe 55% to have a control over the reflectivity using the map, so we have a better understanding of how the leader is behaving to the light sources. So you see that it is less powerful than before. We can do the same to control the other material, so we can go to control also the reflection glossiness and the other parameters, and to do it we can go inside the for example the reflection glossiness, and we'll use the same map, let's say this one, so copy and paste there, and we like to use just a gray map, and we'll use a lightened version because this one is really dark, and this way we'll have a really let's go with standard, we'll have a really so much glossy over the surface. We can make a test. Okay, you see that it's behaving in a different way. I think it is nice now to go near the material to understand better how the surface is working. So let's do a preview for this part, and you see that we have the leader visible there, and maybe we can also have a more higher reflectivity area, so let's see, maybe there, and back in the viewport render we say to render this part, so we can see also where we have an higher reflectivity what happened to the material. Okay, so if we like, we can use the same way to control also the highlight glossiness. So you know that actually we have 0.7 there and 0.7 and 0.6, so we have to use just a little bit darker map there to control how it looks. And to be darker, let's go for 40, so we have the darkest version of the map. Then we need obviously also a bump map, because actually we have no bump, so we are not simulating how the bumping works. And I say we can use a not so high bump, so we use again the map from there. Let's copy and let's go back to the maps, and we copy it there. We'll use 30, and there obviously we have saturation. Let's go to see the map. It is nice because we have a high level of contrast, but we have too much detail, so let's go for 0.25, and we'll see if it is enough or not. So let's make a test, and then we'll see if we need a little bit more reflectivity, because you know some leader are more reflective and other leader are less reflective. So in this case we'll see how it looks and if it is better to have a higher reflectivity. The bump seems enough, so we can go maybe to use a lower scale for the tiling, so we have a better visibility over the leader. So let's try to go back to 3 on every map. So the bump is fixed. Let's go to fix the color, and we do the same for the reflection. And also for the glossiness and the highlights. So sorry, 3 and 3, and the same for this one. Let's save, and let's try to have a little bit more reflectivity. To have an higher reflectivity, we have to change this one, so we can directly change this color, so we have a clear version because we are using an higher color in there, and we can render again a test. That's the result. We can see this model from the other point of view, where we have more reflection over the model, and then we can see if we need to change something to have a different kind of leader material. So back to the render view, and let's do a test for this part. So you see in this part we can see how the reflection works in a more simpler way, because we have more reflection. So I think it would be nice to have a little bit more reflectivity, because it is not bad, but we can simulate a more interesting leader using a higher reflectivity. So you know, to control the reflectivity, we have just to use a higher color for the basic layer. So let's stop, and let's go there, and let's use a higher color, and we should be able to have a more reflective material. And if it is not enough, we can also change other values as the glossiness. So let's say that it is enough, maybe just a little bit more. Okay, because you know we are using also the other maps that make the color darker, so we can try to find a nice balance between the color we are using as the layer 1 and the map we are using over to give the color, so it's nicer than before. Let's go to check the reflection glossiness there. Maybe we can go with a little bit and let's try also with the other one to have a nicer look. Obviously, if it is too much, we can go back a little bit. In this way, we have a little bit less glossiness, so we are simulating a more treated leader, because you see we have a higher reflectivity over the leader. Maybe we can try to use a little bit less, so let's try with 50 over the highlights, and let's go to 62 for the glossiness for the reflection. So we'll have a little bit more blurring, and the blurring will be on the reflection and the highlights too. So it is nicer, I think. You see that it's interesting also where we have no reflectivity there, so it is going to be a nice looking leather material. Let's make a test for the entire material, and you see that the result is really nice. Obviously, depending on the leather you are trying to simulate, you have to work on the reflection and the glossiness to create the right one you are trying to simulate. Another thing I like to see, and I think that we can create the camera from this point of view, so we have the right one. And let's say that this one is the leader, and we can copy and move it there, and we say cloth layer. So in this example, now I like to apply the same thing we done for the velvet to create a standard fabric material. And in a future tutorial, we'll see how to do the same thing using VRay, and we'll see also how to create a more complex fabric. I mean, when you are, and I like to show you what I'm talking about, the next interesting thing will be trying to simulate something like that. You see that this kind of fabric has two different materials, with different bumping and different treatment. For example, I can like to have this one colored like gold. So in this part, for example, we have gold reflection, and we'll see how to treat some stuff like that using different maps, trying to simulate more complex fabric. But this is a nice introduction. Okay, let's say general fabric. We can assign this material to this one. Okay, we create again a VRay material, and we can save. And let's say that we'll use a texture again. The texture is from CG texture, and you see we use a standard fabric pattern, so nothing so special, but we'll see if there is a way to treat this one as a cloth. So we'll launch a little preview with no blurring. So let's say that we render this part, and if we render, we have again just a material with a color over, so nothing special. And in fact, the rendering is nothing special. So if we like to obtain a better result, we have to treat this material as we done before for the other, done using the velvet. So we need a different map there. So we'll use a fall off, but we'll use this map as submap. So you see we have this map there, and we make a copy of this map. So let's say that we have this copy. In this way, we have the same material again. There is nothing so different and so complex. So the first thing we have to do is to go inside the darker version, and we can use a color correction. Then we can go in the advanced, and we can use, let's try with 0, maybe 0.6. Okay. Then we go in the second one, and we say to use again a color correction, keep all map, and we go in the advanced, and we say to use, for example, 1, 2, or maybe we can use 1, 4. We have to make some tests, obviously. Okay, so we used it before the Fresnel. If we go to render this part, we can see the differences between this material and the previous one. We are using a fall off control to have a better material than before, and you see that it's behaving in a different way than before. And I like to see also where we have the Fresnel effects. So to see more the Fresnel effects, we can stop the render. Let's go to change maybe a little bit there. Okay, and maybe just a little bit more there, nothing so much. Let's make more clear this one so we can see in a simpler way. Sorry, this there. So let's go for 1.8, so it is really clear, and this one is darker. Let's see the result, and let's see that this one is okay. Let's see the map. Okay, you see that in this case it's more visible. Let's see to have a brighter visibility of this map using the perpendicular parallel, just to be sure that everything is working. Okay, so let's go to the Fresnel. So we are using the right way to simulate it, and then we need to control the bump. So we can copy this one. Let's go in the maps, and inside the bump we copy this map. We remove a little bit of detail because it is really high, but we go with no saturation, and we go to standard, and I say okay to this one. and inside the map, let's say 0.25. Let's pick this part and let's render. If we like, we can add a little bit of reflectivity as we done before. In this case, I should use, let's say, the same map we are using on the bump, so copy and paste on the reflection. Obviously now the reflectivity is really high. Let's go to use the freshen reflection, and let's say 0.7 for the reflectivity. Actually it is still high, and let's say that the BRDF is a little bit higher. Okay, let's see again a preview, and then we can tweak the reflectivity to have a better final result with less, maybe high reflectivity, but we have to test because maybe it is working nice also with this value. So let's wait. Okay, you see it is working not so bad, so maybe we can just play still a little bit with the diffuse color to have this one brighter, but it's just really just something we like to do just to have a nicer result, but it's not so important. So let's make another test just for this part to see how it changes and how it looks. So you see, I just tried also to move a little bit the camera to see if it looks nice, and it is really not bad. Let's see the reflectivity map. Maybe we can have a little bit higher reflectivity. Let's see with 510. And again a test from this part, and then we make a test also from the other part to be sure that everything is going fine. And then I like to tweak the tiling, so I think we can do it, and maybe we can have also more higher bump. So let's start from first map. So this one, let's say I like to see the map inside the viewport. Let's try with 1.5. Maybe we can go with 2. Okay. I think this one is not tailable, but it is not so big problem. It is just to see if the texture is working nice. So there, 2 and 2. But this one is the reflectivity. We can go with 0.1, and then with a bump we go for double tiling. Let's make another little preview, and you see that the tiling is better. We can see if we have too much problems with the tiling, that is not a big issue, because we are more interested to see if the cloth is working nice. And then let's say that we have maybe a higher value for the bump, and then let's see a preview. Okay, you see that the result is really nice. We see the tiling there for the texture, but it's not a big issue. We have an intersection there, but we can solve it. It's not a problem. So let's move it this one, and we can see together how it looks. So for example, if we make a render like this one, we can see whole materials. Okay, you see we have 3 different behavior for different clothes. You can play with maybe a little bit with the the leader. So for example, I think that we can go a little bit lower with the glossiness. So let's say again to maybe 58, and a little bit down with the, let's say 48. And let's see if we have a little bit more glossy reflection, because I like a little bit more to have a higher level of glossiness or the reflectivity for a leader. But you know, there are leaders with a higher reflectivity, so it depends. Okay, so we have the complete scene. It is a nice introduction to a way to play with cloth material. Let's move the cloth to have a nice rendering. Let's say something like that, and let's find a nice point to see both. Let's use our final resolution, so let's go for 900 and 400. And let's render with 1080, and we can see a little preview just to see how it looks. And we can also use a higher value for the illumination. So we select the VRay light, and let's say that we have, let's try with 20, and we make a little preview to see how it looks. Okay, I have to remove this one and render. Okay, it is not bad. So we have just to say that this one during the rendering is, let's say, 5 times bigger. It should, let's create another camera from this point of view. Okay, and I'd everything just to see if it is falling. Let's say 10 times. Okay, let's say, if you like, you can use also the infinite plane from VRay, and maybe we can just then use to move a little bit and rotate a little bit. Let's see if we see, okay, entire. And then to achieve a better result in rendering, we can just pick this one and use 16 subdivision, and the same for the other material, because we are using heavy glossy reflectivity, so we need a better quality. And the same for the last one. For this one, if you for this one, if you like, we can have a little bit less reflectivity, so we can go to 0 to have a darker reflectivity. Okay, close and save. So the scene is ready for final rendering. If you like to have a really nice quality, you can then again choose this one and have less grain on the shadows. And to have less grain, we can go for 32 subdivision for the sampling. There you can go for 16 and 2, and then you can tweak the rendering with 110 for the lighting. Then we can go for medium for the radiance, and we can stay with this one for the other, for the light cache. Save. So it was an introduction to some fabric and cloth material using VRay. We'll continue to talk about this topic using MinToolRay and creating also more complex fabric as we checked before with the other texture. So for the moment that's all, and I hope to see you back on Max Cookie to check for new tutorial coming from cgcookie.com. Bye.